Nightmare. Sometimes I don't feel very nice. Sometimes when I'm relaxing in the garden after a long day struggling to make my way in the world, and after the sun has set, the monsters come out to play. I always bring a little piece of raw meat with me, just in case they start to play too rough. When that happens, I throw the meat to distract them while I make my escape back into the well-lit building. When I throw the meat, I begin to run immediately, but I always loved playing fetch with Snoopy when he was a little pup, and with Lita too. Part of me wants to stop, to turn, to look and watch them race toward their prize. I know who will win the race, of course. The big one. He eats the most, I'm sure of it. He wins every race and wolfs down that little scrap of fresh, juicy flesh. That's why I can never stop and watch their sport, even though warm, rosy glimmers of childhood wink off the shining chromed surfaces of the fountains in the garden, and I think of Snoopy and Lita. Because it's never enough. No matter how much meat I could bring with me, it's never enough. I have to run because it's never enough. Each bite makes their leader more ravenous. The taste of the blood in the flesh lights a bright, sizzling fire in the heart of him, and he is terrifyingly nimble and quick. The salty copper taste blazes like a magnesium flare, and though he bellows with rage, he does not stop to pose with that bellow like some animal in a film. Never think it. Once, from just inside the door of the parlor within, feeling safe in the glow of the candles on the mantelpiece, I did turn. Before slamming the door closed and sliding the deadbolt home, I gave in to the temptation. The throw had been a good one, and the scrap of beef had landed almost touching the wall in the far corner. Surely I could sneak a peek, I thought. Surely. He turned his enormous head in my direction, and two hideously radiating garnets pierced the dark gulf betwixt us. He shifted slightly, and the threatening posture gave me pause. I swallowed, and in that same moment I blinked. And just like that, in the literal blink of an eye, the monstrosity had bounded across the atrium, and I had barely time to seal and bolt the door. The image of that wretched face seared into the bed where my eyes would later seek rest and find it not. But I could still hear it, breathing outside the door. Great clouds of hot, sulphurous stink billowed out from the gap beneath the door, mingled with putrefaction. It is said that, more than any other of the senses, smell is the doorway to memory. I know it is true, for in an instant I am transported to the dead raccoon, splattered and glued to the street by the gaudy strings of its entrails, frying and decaying on the scorching pavement in the August sun. I am 7, and I poke the carcass with a stick. I am encountering death up close for the first time, and I want it to know that I am not afraid. But death knows better. The head rolls bonelessly on the pivot of the broken and shattered spine within, and turns to look at me with sightless, maggoty eyes. Surely it is only the elasticity of the shrinking musculature which pulls the jaw open into the gaping expression of a howl. Surely it is only gases released by the decomposition within which hiss out of the open mouth. But where? Where? Demands my scientific adult brain years later. Where did the voice come from? The soft, almost but damnably not entirely inaudible whisper which says, "Soon." I stand there, transfixed by the horror, when I feel a sharp, piercing needle of pain on the hand holding the stick. I avert my gaze from the deathly messenger and see the slender, glistening brown and black body of a wasp clinging to my skin. And Brother Wasp is not alone, oh no, never think it. As I raise my other hand to swat at him, another alights on that hand. More buzz past my ears. There is a flurry of unfocused activity in front of my eyes. It is too much. I drop my stick and flee. I run blindly down the street, heedless of all but the gigantic pressing hand of terror which squeezes my heart. From a distant country, I hear the whistle of a crossing guard weeping somewhere as I pelt into the intersection. For an instant, a field of chrome-edged, metal-flecked blue fills half of my view, and then the world is spinning, whirling end over end in a sickening loop, before a bright red flash of pain fills my head and the world goes dark. The next thing I know is a garden. I am in an area of grass and shrubs and flowers, open to the sky, but bounded by 4 walls. The walls are windowless and concrete. The only exit is a brightly painted yellow wooden door. It will occur to me years later that this is a peculiar fixture for a concrete structure, but that does not occur today. The air is fragrant with the smell of lilacs. The thought of flowers brings the flying tormentors to my mind, and I whirl around to see if there are any, but none appear. I remember the blast of pain and gingerly put my hand to my head, hissing with agony when I brush against the throbbing lump on the side of my forehead. But aside from my discomfort, the place is peaceful. It seems, at first glance, just the sort of atrium a hospital might have, to allow patients who might not be bedbound to convalesce in the warm, healing rays of the golden sun. Time flies quickly, though, and soon the sun is setting behind one of the 4 walls. A chill causes my nerves to tingle in the absence of the radiant glow, and soon darkness begins to fall around me. I still do not know where I am. I look around, trying to glean clues to my location, and that is when I see him. He is horrible to behold. It is the raccoon. At least, something tells me that it is. Only this thought could convince me that it is so, for what I now behold bears no other resemblance to any living creature. It no longer has a coat of fur. It has something, and there is possibly fur among it, but there is also seared skin and meat and mud, and even a winking shard of green glass from a shattered Heineken bottle, or is it Rolling Rock? But it is not dead. No. It is very much alive, and its maggoty eyes quiver horribly as it grins at me. "Ugh, you're disgusting," I scream, and I begin to cough and gag as the reek of the thing smites my nostrils. As I do so, a wad of mucus flies out of my mouth and sticks to the nearby wall with a splat. The undead raccoon leaps to the wall and begins clawing at the mucus, gobbling it greedily. I stumble backward in revulsion and trip over my own feet. I land heavily on my hands. Other pains call out from these, as well as from other parts of my body, but I have no time for them now. I push myself up and look over my shoulder to see where the monster might be. He is crawling toward me with horrible speed. His mangled limbs should be slowing his progress, but if anything, his gelatinous meal has given him new stamina and vigor. I scramble to my feet, galvanized into action by this clambering nightmare. I pelt toward the yellow door, prepared to rain blows upon it until my fists bleed, if that is what it takes. I must escape. But there is no resistance. The door flies open easily at my touch, and, safely through it, I slam it closed. There is a titanic deadbolt on the door, but it is well maintained and slides home easily. I turn to face the room beyond, and candles on the mantel of a fireplace nearby fill the room with a soft, warm light. The light grows in intensity and washes out all vision. I awake. I am in a hospital bed. My mother is seated by the bed, and alerted by my stirring, rises from her chair to welcome me back from the land of the dead, as only a mother can. From the day of the accident until now, I only ever dream of the atrium. Sometimes it is daylight, and I have peace, but I know the darkness is coming, and my peace is ever tainted with that knowledge. Sometimes I begin my dream right at sunset, and the terror is immediate. Over the years, other monsters have joined the first. They feed on the hate that I have for them, or for anyone or anything. They are not discriminating in their appetites. But the first has become mammoth in his proportions. I suspect he has even eaten some of the others, though I can rarely spare the time to call the roll. And now, I think he has grown beyond his capacity to be fed by the scraps I fling him. Sometimes, in the waking world, I feel his hot breath baking the inside of my eyes, as I feel my rage rising against some person or thing which has unsettled me in my day-to-day existence. He seeks always now to make his own escape, to come out and devour everything in his path. He is an engine of hate and malice, and he wants very much to eat you all up if you stand before him. So, if you see me, sitting by myself in the sun, muttering soothing words to myself, do us both a favor, and don't say anything stupid. No, I'm not trying to contact my home planet. No, I'm not trying to remember when I could last see my shoes. No, I'm not praying to God to ask for a friend. No, you horrible jackals, I am trying to save your worthless lives. And there he is again, right now. I am back from my reverie, and I have bolted the door, and before I turn toward the candles on the mantelpiece, and the warm light washes this too away, I feel his hot breath beneath the door. I smell the vile stench of it, and my eyes water with it, and I hear that breathing slow, and I know he has drawn up close to the other side of the door, and I know he is going to speak, and I know what he is going to say. The only thing he ever says, in his ghastly, corpse gasp whisper, soon.